Groaners! Here it is, our bumper crop special of Birthoween. Only this time, we've chucked Bonfire Night into the mix as well, to make it with a bang. Yes, last week, I know the birthday episode was brought forward, but officially, the show is a Halloween baby. Happy year 4 to the podcast. We've doubled up the facts to cover Halloween and Bonfire Night, courtesy of Admin Nicoles' brilliant hard work. Admin Nicole has also specially written a story for Creepy Corner, which continues from last year's one. Heaven knows how she keeps track, I'll never know myself. We've also had a special audience groan come in from two people I never ever thought I'd hear from, but they are big on the classic horror scene. Your games in a special are Talking Nonsense, don't quote me on that, 50-50, the 5-point countdown, and a Halloween-themed Admin Nicoles Anagram Anxiety. But now, my groans bubble away in the mad scientist lab. 4 groans for this week, by the way. Fancy dress quality. Going through a shop the other day, I came to the Halloween section, and oh boy! One costume there was pretty much a long sleeve t-shirt with a very faded out design on it, with a mask a mugger wouldn't be seen dead in. No pun intended. Granted, these are for kids in some cases, but where's the A-grade material? Come on, shops, it's Halloween, put some effort in. Some of your decorations are brilliant, but the costumes are rubbish this year. What's going on? Boring horror movie remakes. Now, I didn't see this movie on Halloween. I went to see it earlier in the year. I went to go see The Wolfman, and sadly, I wasn't scared at all. I would have done better to see the 1930s version, and I probably would have wet me knickers. The effects were good, but that's all I could really say. There was some atmospheric build-up, but then no payoff. Don't get me started on the end though, it was one of the worst endings of a film I've ever seen. Also, shameless franchising kills a movie off. Case in point, Scream has become the horror movie's Rocky. What is it, Scream 6 or 7 now? Put it to bed with no chances of a reboot or a soft reboot. Now we move on to the Bonfire Night groans in my little subsection here. Ignoring fireworks safety. We at Groan Zone headquarters say this every year. Handle fireworks with respect. Don't go messing around with what is in essence an explosive device that could blind you or blow off your fingers or something else. If you don't feel able to handle fireworks safely, there are plenty of free and pay-to-see events going on around the UK, starting this week and going on into next week. Or maybe in your country, possibly in your country, I don't know. I know about my local area, but I don't know other places. But groaners, just to back up this groan, we hand you over to Frank the Firework for some wise public service advice.
Kids, adults, if you drop your sparkler, please leave it be. Adults, never ever go to check on an unexploded firework, and if you are having a bonfire, please report to your local fire department so they are aware. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank the Firework, for that PSA. Thank you. And back to my last groan. Soundless fireworks. Now, groaners, when Guy Fawkes went to blow up Parliament...
Remember, the 5th of November. Gunpowder, treason and plot.
He sure as hell didn't search around for quiet gunpowder, did he? Yes, you can get some good soundless fireworks that still give off the spectacle. Please God, never buy lame indoor fireworks. They are tabletop disappointments. You can buy indoor fireworks, groaners. I've used them, and it's just either little sparklers or little things that make a brown mess on your table. But for me, the sound needs to be with a firework. We all know animals get scared by big bangs, but precautions should be taken to mute or at least lessen the effect. That's my groan spliced together to make a Halloween and firework loving groan messy masterpiece. We'll hear from a horror stalwart soon with the Audience Groan, but now we give the first of Admin Nicoles' Birthoween and Bonfire Night facts. Whilst bonfires are linked to Bonfire Night traditionally, they're also common at Halloween. Original Celtic bonfires were more aptly named bonefires, as the Celts threw animal bones into the flames to ward off those evil spirits. Now, Groaners, did you also know that until 1959 it was illegal not to celebrate Bonfire Night in Britain? Did you know that, Groaners? I didn't. So you were forced to celebrate Bonfire Night in Britain. Wow. Who knew? More facts coming soon, Groaners, but now we play our first game of the special. It's time for talking Birthoween and Bonfire Night nonsense. Round 1. It's a kind of chocolate sweet selection, but witches also use it. Your nonsense is... Pause here, Groaners. Have a little think, guess, and then unpause. Round 2. Be careful. One bite or scratch, and you could be infected and turn into one. Your nonsense is a... Moz. Pause here, Groaners. Have a little think, have a guess, then unpause. Last round, round 3. It's a type of firework, but part of its name was a big hit for the Rolling Stones. Your nonsense is a... Pause here, Groaners. Have a guess for the last round, and then unpause. And the answers to talking nonsense will be given at the end of the show. And yes, Groaners, once again, there's no live audience. This just means I can get this show edited as I go for better quality and continuity. Now, Groaners, as with all games within the show, you need a bit of luck, don't you? But unfortunately, there are those of us out there that aren't so lucky. What are they, Groaners? They're unlucky! And this one all revolves around superstition and foods with superstitious, unlucky connotations. And of course, Halloween is classed as one superstitious night for some people. If you're caught eating lobster on a superstitious night, it could be considered unlucky as they've moved backward, symbolizing setbacks and bad luck. But we're not done yet. If you also eat chicken, because they're classed as birds that scratch backward, they're sometimes associated with regret and misfortune, making them a food to avoid on superstitious occasions. So if you're at a Halloween buffet and you see chicken and you're superstitious, you might want to avoid it, Groaners. Admin Nicole is front and centre again, Groaners, delivering more facts for the episode. While many people don't enjoy the scary and the spooky, not many can say they have a genuine, recognised phobia of this time of year. Some people can, however, and the official name for this fear is Samhainophobia. If I've mispronounced that and you're a sufferer, my apologies. In Ottery, St Mary in Devon, there is the unique tradition of carrying barrels filled with burning tar through the streets on Bonfire Night. I don't know what that's about. If anybody knows and you're from that area, can you email in and let us know? Thanks. However, Groaners, Admin Nicole is not done yet. Here she comes with a special story for Creepy Corner, which continues from last year's Creepy Corner. The story for this week's episode special is A Slice of Purpose. Marshall stood admiring his home, a routine he'd gotten used to in the last few years. Once he gave up his old life, the cake offered him a home, and soon after that, Carmel moved in with him. She would still work in her parents' bakery, slowly discovering new forms that Caramel could take as Marshall slowly learned his responsibility to the town. So much had happened that Marshall couldn't even remember how old he was anymore. In a town like this, age didn't really matter after all. He had quickly summarised that ageing was done rather slowly in this town, if at all. He wondered if it was due to how eating what you are made you stronger. Since he took on his new form, he began to drink at least 2 hot chocolates every night with exactly 3 small marshmallows in each one. A strange routine, brought on after he got cut by a thorn bush while out on patrol one evening and fluff started leaking out of him. He could only guess this was now his version of blood, but he found that eating marshmallows quickly healed it up like it was nothing at all. He was happy now. His town was peaceful and there was so much love, if you ignore that one street. Yet today was the festivities, the biggest night of the year and also the most miserable for Marshall. Carmel tried to cheer him up, but it was no use. Everyone admires you for taking up that street, when you could easily make anyone else in the force do it. I just hope we're not getting a repeat of last time. You are still scared of the orange things after all, Carmel said. Marshall held her hand and looked up at her, that one awful dreaded street every single year. The great festival covering the entire town and a parade led by the great cake itself. Marshall wanted nothing more to attend and take Carmel after she was done at the bakery. The problem was that one street. A cul-de-sac it was. A whole circle of houses split down the middle. Most days of the year it's just fine, a normal street. On this day though, they treat it as a no-holds-barred night. No one in the force wants to deal with them. They cause chaos and destruction, do whatever they want on that one street all night. The worst culprit of all is a mere child of only 8 years of age. Marshall stood firm and smiled. He assured Carmel he would be alright, this year would be different. So she smiled back and saw him out the door before heading off to the bakery. He parked his car across the road at the beginning of the cul-de-sac and walked into the all-knowing terror he had become accustomed to. He opened the lid of his hot chocolate and poured in exactly 3 marshmallows as he ignored the carnage around him. On the left side of the street were the shortbreads and on the right the gingerbreads. Every year they would treat this night as an excuse that anything goes, and the rest of the year they would hold fundraisers to fix the damage. No one knew why they did this, but they weren't hurting anyone else, so they were left to it. Except Marshall, who was forced to monitor this every year. Amongst the chaos, a gingerbread man ran out to Marshall begging for help. He ignored it. The man kept begging, but he was still ignored, until he knocked the hot chocolate to the ground, angering him. Marshall stood up angry and decided not to hold back. Look, sir, I don't honestly care what your problem is, not one bit, and don't think I don't know you either. You do this to me every year, and you're lucky I don't arrest you. Let's get this straight. What you all do to each other is none of my concern. Every year you do this to me, and please enlighten me on what I'm supposed to do here. This street is only monitored to make sure you don't drag anyone else into whatever this is. Your personal issue like last year, and every year before is because of your wife. Every year this street causes chaos, and I lose my entire night monitoring your weird behaviour, so it doesn't go past this street. Yes, your wife is cheating on you, with the shortbread on the other side of the street. Yes, every year she proudly declares that she prefers her bread short, and then goes back to you the next day, because that's the freedom this weird street has for this one day a year. No, can't arrest your wife for cheating on you, and yes, she'll probably keep doing this every year. Now, why don't you understand, and I'm truly sorry, but you deserve better, or maybe you don't. I don't understand what goes on here, or why your cul-de-sac is like this, running riot every single year. I personally don't care. You're all as bad as each other. I know that I lost my drink like every year thanks to you, I might add. I have real work to do, so point me in the direction of Jerome, please, he explained. The gingerbread man couldn't look Marshall in the eye and pointed toward the cemetery. After a short walk and mild contemplation on what this year would bring, he met with Jerome, sitting on a log, looking up at the stars with a book in hand. A small graham cracker, child, and somewhat of an enemy to Marshall. He sat next to him nonetheless, and asked what Book 3 was about. This book lets me raise the dead. I just wanted to talk to my grandpa again, but I wasn't sure where he was, so I raised everyone. Not as bad as Book 2 though, right? I heard you're still traumatized by that. I wish I was sorry, but it was pretty cool. Not many can say they got to gut a pumpkin from inside of it though, Jerome said. Marshall sighed and reached out a hand to take Book 3 from Jerome. A series of books someone keeps giving him to release unknown horrors on this world. Thankfully, Jerome goes one book at a time and only on this one day a year, but it was still a hassle for Marshall. Yet thanks to Jerome and that weird street he has to deal with every year, Marshall learned of his purpose to the town and just how much he loved who he was now and what his life had become. Something he never would have imagined back before all this happened. It made him think of Carmel, and suddenly he knew what he had to do. Marshall picked up a branch, leaned against an old tree, and gave it to Jerome before taking one for himself. He offered Jerome his hand as he stood up and pointed at the town and the parade where a small army of the undead was slowly marching towards. Let's go bash in some skulls and return everyone to their graves. We don't have long before the night is over, and I have a proposal to get to before midnight. A skull-crushing finale there on that one, Admin Nicole. I don't know how you keep track of it all, like I said, but you've done brilliantly. More Creepy Corner next week. And now for the special, another game in the form of Don't Quote Me on That, with a spooky twist in most cases. Round 1.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Pause here, groaners. Test your brain for the movie knowledge, have a guess, and then unpause. Here comes round number 2.
You mean you knew about this? You knew about this and you didn't tell me?
I was hoping I wouldn't have to. Sometimes it skips a generation.
It landed on my face. What the hell am I gonna do?
Pause here, groaners. Have a little think, test your movie knowledge in your brain, and then unpause. Round 3, final round for Don't Quote Me on That. And this time, we're moving away from Halloween a little bit.
Beneath this mask, there is more than flesh. Beneath this mask, there is an idea, Mr. Creedy. And ideas are bulletproof.
Pause here, groaners. Have a little think, have a guess, and then unpause. Now, how was your movie knowledge? You'll find out later on, but groaners, it is now time for the Audience Groan. I was walking down a dark street the other night, earlier in the week, when suddenly I got jumped by a very monstrous, scary-looking fellow. He asked me if I was Mr. E. Groaner, and lo and behold, it was Mr. Hyde, and right before my eyes, he turned into Dr. Jekyll. Their groan is their eternal struggle of good and evil, but realizing one truly can't exist without the other. They also feel ashamed by basically feeling they have a split personality within themselves when the other is in control. He then rushed off and I didn't see him again. But they have a very good groan, especially about split personality and mental well-being, which should never be mocked. Thanks to the both of them for seeking me out. If you have a groan for the show, or any other groantent, contributions, or anything, you can ship it to us in one of the many ways. You can email us, which is thegroanzonepod@gmail.com. You can jump in on Facebook groups with the Groan Zone Podcast Facebook group. You can come on Discord at any time, not just when we're recording live at 8:30 on a Friday usually. Under the Groan Zone, you can message myself, that's Mr. E. Groaner, or Admin Nicole and Nicole Amos via Facebook Messenger. And lastly, drop a comment to us on any platform you use to tune into the show. YouTube, Snapchat. Don't have Snapchat for the show. We'll try that again, groaners. I meant to say Spotify. That's what I meant to say, Spotify. Or anything else that you use. And we'll try and pick up your comment and either formulate your ideas into the show, or we will use your groan within the show. We appreciate everything you send, groaners. With that final groan, we stick with our creepy vibe with, well, that's creepy. Normally, groaners, I'd quote off or loosely read an apparently true creepy story from Reddit or elsewhere here, but Admin Nicole found something creepier, which happened to 2 teen girls last November. Here it is, and this is so weird. So, what happened was, 2 teenagers became unwell when a masked stranger walked up to them and shoved what he described, or what was described to them, as a sweet into their mouths. They were both 16, and they were in Bushey, in Hertfordshire, and of course it was by force where he did this, and he also struck one of them in the face. They were both checked over in hospital after the incident in Park Avenue, on which was Thursday last year. So that last Thursday would have actually been Halloween, so it didn't happen in November. My mistake, happened on Halloween, of all cases. And they actually got the forensic tests to determine what the substance was that made them so ill. and police did reassure people they were looking out for him, and he was wearing a red and white mask and a black Nike tracksuit and black trainers. He sounds like a stupid low-rent Freddy. Good grief. But yeah, that's particularly creepy, Groaners. I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone I know, their kids, or any other kid for that matter. That's just out there nuts, that is. To take us out of creepy, but sticking with spooky, we'll move on to the 5-point countdown, Groaners. Clue 5 for 5 points. This masked horror villain stalks his victims on Halloween. Pause here, Groaners. Have a little think, chuck your guess in, then unpause. Clue 4 for 4 points. His favourite, but not only killing method, is with blades. Again, pause here, Groaners, chuck your guess in, and then unpause. Clue 3 for 3 points. He has starred in many sequels, leading fans to believe he is immortal in the movies. Pause here, Groaners, again, have a guess, and then unpause. Clue 2 for 2 points. He shares his name with the actor who voices a certain green ogre. Pause here, Groaners, chuck your guesses in, and then unpause. Your final clue, clue 1 for 1 point. His target, who usually escapes him in the movies, is his sister. Pause here, Groaners, chuck your guess in, and then unpause. And the answer will be revealed later. From games to the special, we bounce along to Admin Nicoles facts again for Birthoween and Bonfire Night. It wasn't until the 15th century that the image of witches flying became commonplace. Although they were pictured flying on shovels, goats, and wolves before the broomstick became the most popular media choice, as Catholicism became the norm in England, so did a desire to rid society of those sticking to paganistic and traditional ways of life, and we saw many witches burned to death or drowned. And your Bonfire Night fact is, in the past, children would wheel around homemade guys in carts asking for a penny for the guy to raise money for fireworks. Though less common today, some communities still keep the tradition alive. It doesn't happen in the northeast anymore, to my knowledge. I've only ever been asked once in my neighbourhood, but they asked in the middle of October. I think you've got your dates wrong there, guys. There'll be more facts to come before the end of the episode. We've got one more fact of each. We now name our hero of Birthoween. A Halloween-themed maze has been built to raise money to support adults with disabilities and learning difficulties. Now, this attraction is based in Rushden, which is Northamptonshire, and was designed and partially built by users of the charity Support for Independence, which helps vulnerable adults aged 17 and above. If you visit, you've got to pay £2 and navigate through a series of horror-themed rooms filled with props and animatronic monsters. That sounds pretty cool, and they're ready to scare anyone that attends. Money raised from the event will fund future community activities, including a Christmas maze featuring Santa and festive crafts. If you want to attend the maze, it runs every Wednesday and Friday throughout October at 44 Park Road in Rushden. If you do go there, if it's in your local vicinity, do email us or contact us and let us know what it was like. Hero status, not just for Halloween there, guys. Very well done. Now, of course, we have named our hero, but sadly for the special there has to be a 0 of Birthoween with a bang special. Right, Groaners, every year we at Groaners on headquarters, as well as our little sentient firework guests, warn you out there to respect fireworks. They are not toys and can cause injury or death, as we've already stated. This 0 goes out to anyone who flaunts the rules and causes damage or injury to someone. You're not funny, you're a bargain basement 0. Have a word with yourself and use the stuff safely. And kids, if your friends are messing with fireworks, step away from them and go indoors and be safe. Don't become a statistic. But now we move away from 0s and heroes to play our near final game of the special episode, which is called a 50-50. Here we go, Groaners, are you ready? Well, you've got to be, because you're listening. Round 1. In the first Friday the 13th movie, was the killer A. Jason or B. Jason's mother? Have a think, groaners. Pause. Answer time, and then unpause. Round 2. This film was directed by a director who was convicted of a crime I cannot say on the show. Was it A. Wrong Turn or B. Jeepers Creepers? Pause here, groaners. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. Final round. Round 3. Who was Freddy Krueger's final girl in the first Nightmare on Elm Street? Was it B. Nancy or was it A. Tracy? Pause here, groaners. Have a little think. Answer, then unpause. And that is it for 50-50. The answers will be coming soon, groaners. Now with another game out the way, we tune it over to facts now, with more facts from Admin Nicole for Birthoween and Bonfire Night. And these are the final facts of the episode. Originally celebrated on 13th of May, it was Pope Gregory who had the date of All Hallows Feast moved to 1st of November sometime in the 8th century. It is thought that in doing so, he was attempting to replace or assimilate the Celtic Samhain festival of the dead with a related but church-approved celebration. And here comes the Bonfire Night fact. The night before Bonfire Night is traditionally known as Mischief Night. Sounds like my kind of night. Particularly in the north of England. Hey, where I'm from. In the 1960s, this was a night when the local children would play pranks, knock and run on neighbours' front doors, letting down car tyres. I've played Nicky Knocky 9 doors, but I've never let down anyone's car tyres. Tying metal dustbin lids to door knockers. Never did that one either. Even changing the numbers on gates to confuse the postman. Most of them these days are confused anyway. It was also the night when children would pilfer the best wood from rival bonfires unless they were guarded carefully. Yes, I'm guilty of doing that when I was younger. Stealing bonfire wood from other kids' bonfires. Mr. E. Groaner, how could you? And those were the final facts from Admin Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, for the research you've done for the episode. Now then, let's get those important game answers out the way. Starting with the most recent game, 50-50. Round 1. In the first Friday the 13th movie, the killer was B. Jason's mother. If anyone by now hasn't seen Friday the 13th, and I've ruined it for you, I'm sorry, but this movie was probably recorded when a lot of people listening to this weren't alive, me included, but I've still seen it. Round 2. This film was directed by a director who was convicted of a crime I cannot say on the show. It was B. Jeepers Creepers, and he was convicted of a crime, let's say, under 18. That's all I'm going to say. Round 3. Who was Freddy Krueger's final girl in the first Nightmare on Elm Street? Of course, everyone should know if you're a horror buff. Nancy was the final girl who kicked Freddy's ass in the first movie. Oh, first of many. Because what has it been 11 Nightmare on Elm Street movies now? Or is it 12? 1200? I can't remember. Next game, which of course is the 5-point countdown. And of course, the killer I was talking about in question was Michael Myers, or some people might call him Mike Myers, but that's the actor. So for argument's sake, I'm gonna say Michael Myers. Don't quote me on that. Answers now. Round 1. Your movie was Dawn of the Dead, the 1978 version. A classic. Or I should say George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, 1978. A classic horror film. Really gory, really good fun if you're a horror buff. Round 2. A Michael J. Fox classic. Teen Wolf. And round 3. Not a horror movie, but thought-provoking, action-filled. Hugo Weaving does a brilliant turn as V. It's V for Vendetta. Well done. If from those quotes you guessed what the movies were, groaners. Well played to you. Now we have the answers to talking nonsense. Your nonsense for round 1 was black magic. And yes, you can still get them in the stores. Not sure where, but you can still buy them. Round 2. Yes, if you get scratched or bitten by one of these, you will turn. It's not a vampire. I bet some of you were thinking that. Your nonsense was a zombie. Round 3. If you know your fireworks, you'll know that your nonsense was a jumping jack. And that's the game answer. Oh, no groaners, sorry. That's not the game answers. From last week is the pictorial game, and I may have to use AI to pronounce this, because it's Hungarian, and as you know, groaners, your host can't speak foreign languages, so this part's going to be AI. Google, over to you, with the answer for who the hell are we? Your answer was...
Telefon hírmondó.
Which actually translates to telephone announcer. So the first podcast in the 1890s was technically called Telephone Announcer. Strange name for a program, really, but that's the first podcast. Well done if you know your radio programs from years gone by. And you got a point for that one. If you didn't, don't feel bad. I wouldn't have got it either. Well done if you scored points in any of the games out there, groaners. If you didn't score points, don't worry. There's always next week's special, which is the Remembrance Day special. And we've got one more game coming to you now to round off the episode. It's Admin Nicoles Anagram Anxiety. Your anagram for this special is Angelo Bank Card. Your clue is the colours of Halloween. I'm thinking black's in there somewhere, but I haven't got a clue what it is. All I'm seeing is Count Dracula or Dracula in there, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. Good luck, groaners. You're gonna need it. I haven't got a clue. And on that note, thanks for tuning in, groaners. We'll see you next week.
Soon the creatures of the night shall rule the world. And there is no one to stop us!